this room, orange to white so we could bloom. All our friends smile as they walk up the stairs. They say, I feel so at home in here. We were held by his house through the ups and the downs, and it's where we held each other, scratching floors, slamming doors, and then a patching up. This is where we built us. She asked a question by the tulip tree, the one our son met years later. It was December, so the flowers were gone, but when we leave, they'll be back to greet someone.
Hey friends, welcome back. Monday. It is Monday. How was your weekend? Ours was pretty laid back. I can't tell you what we did, but we were inside the house because it was stinking cold. So I worked a little bit on this bookshelf quilt. I got all the pieces put together, and before I get into that, where's my manners? Welcome, Teri here, and this is my channel on a simpler life, aka retirement, and it is also my weight loss journey to lose 100 pounds, and so it's worked in between everything else. So on here you'll see lots of different crafts. You will see gardening when it's in the garden season, and home cooked things and all the stuff. So, but anyways, I was working on the quilt, and they have these pieces that are like this. So one goes this way and one goes this way. Well, when it is hooked to this thing, you see these little knobs up here? They got to line up. Let's see if I can do it. You see how they're supposed to line up like that? Well, they line up like that right now because I had to tear out. I had to retrim. So I did the middle section first, like it said, and it told me what the measurement should be. So I measured mine, and then I based it off all these tops and bottoms to this measurement. So when I put them together, hopefully they line up. But it was a pain. It was a pain. I grumbled to my friend, and she told me to step away from the sewing for a while. So the first block is laid out. I got them all in the right directions. They just have to be sewn together. The second block is going to be the same way. So what I decided to do, I'm thinking, is I was going to start on the second block because I have all these pieces that have to be sewn together in a strip. And my thought process is if I get that done and get it all laid out and they're all the same size, then I could just sew all 6 blocks of block A and all 6 blocks of block B. And then it's ready to join them into the quilt. So it will be ready, because this is a paid pattern, so I'll only show you like this. So I'll be ready to do like that. So instead, that was Saturday. Sunday, woke up with sinus pressure and just ringing in my ears and all that stuff, and I thought, oh great, I haven't been out of this house, so where in Sam Hill did I pick up something? Because that's exactly what I felt like. Much better today. I just think it was the change of the weather, and because that system was coming in again, this up and down is crazy on my sinuses, and I take an allergy pill every day because of it. And once it was time for me to take my allergy pill, within a half hour or so, it was so much better, and it's so much better today. And I was able to sleep more than 6 hours. The last 2 nights couldn't sleep 6 hours because the kitties kept waking me up to go feed them and stuff. And if I went back to bed, they would just cry, cry, cry. So this morning, they started waking us up early again. And so Jerry just got up and he went and fed them. And I laid in bed, and it was probably 7 o'clock, quarter after 7, something like that. And he got up, fed them, went and used the restroom, and then by that time, Nala had come running through the bedroom and just crying like she always does. And he had went out, and so what he did was he picked up her food because she is a grazer. And Mr. Simba is known to turn around and see a dish of food, even though he has one. He'll finish her dish and then go finish his. So Jerry said he picked up her food and put it back in a can and put it in the refrigerator. And then he came in, and she was in the bathroom, so he walked in there, and she was just hollering at him, and he was talking to her for about a minute or two, and then he came back to bed. I don't know if that's all she wanted, but needless to say, it was 9:15 before we woke up, and it felt so good. He goes, "Really? It's that late?" And I went, "Yeah." So, but so today I've been getting lackadaisy, as I would say, on making my yogurt. It's so much easier just to go to the store and buy it. But when I can do make a gallon of yogurt for $4.50 compared to 32 ounces of Greek yogurt for almost $7, that's what I need to do. So that's what it's in its incubation period right now for the 9 hours. So about 11 o'clock tonight, because we don't go to bed until 11:30. When it's done, I just will, because I do it in the Instant Pot, I'll take the pot out, and I have a lid that goes on it, a clear lid, and that will set in the refrigerator all night. And then tomorrow I will set there, and then I'll get out my yogurt strainer and dump it in there and let it set in the refrigerator another 4 hours or so for it to really thicken up. And then I'll have yogurt for the next few weeks. So I won't have to do bread this week because last week, if you were around, you heard my bread story. So one is in the freezer, and the other one we are using. The raisin bread is still good, and we're down to about this much left of it. So it's just been nice to have as a, after you have your breakfast, as a snack. So I don't know what to do with myself when there's not baking and to do, because Jerry made chocolate chip cookies Sunday. Yeah, I think yesterday. Tried a recipe, and we each had a couple cookies. Well, I had a couple cookies, and took the points for it and all that stuff. And so they're in their container, so you know, there's stuff for him for snacks. I do have a recipe I want to try to make for Cheez-Its, and there is another one I want to try, granola bars. The granola bars I want to try, I don't have the rice puffs, like the Rice Krispies and stuff that she uses. I have everything else, but I don't have that. But so I can have that for us to snack on too. This yogurt, I think this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to, in a couple of half pint jars, I'm going to get out some strawberry jam that I've canned up, and I am going to put some yogurt in the bottom and a little bit of the strawberry jam, and then some more yogurt, and make it like a, you know, a fruit in the cup. I know I can use the frozen berries, and I might do that. I got blueberries. I might do some with some blueberries in it so I have a little snack. Or I just might take some granola and just put some in a bowl and, you know, put some in like that. So, but other than that, I really haven't done too much. Yesterday was it yesterday or Saturday? Saturday, I think. All the washing was done early, so we got the washing all done. And Jerry had made scalloped potatoes and ham Friday. And then he made, and then we had breakfast for supper one night this weekend. I think it was Saturday. So we had scrambled eggs and the leftover ham and a slice of raisin bread. That might have been Friday. I'm not for sure. But we had that, and I had pressure canned this last year's summer potatoes that we had grown, and because everybody seems, there's a big old tank going by. Everybody says that, you know, that they're good. I'm here to tell you we're not a fan. We are not a fan. If you ever had canned potatoes from the store, that's what it reminds you of, and we're not a fan. I heard someone else say that they weren't a fan and they got lots. I think we have 8 pints. We've tried it twice, and this time we fried them up. They still have that taste like they're in a can, but they're in a jar. But someone said that they are good in like stews and stuff like that, because the flavor of the juice will take that right out, because there's no way we're going to eat them plain like we did and fried with salt and pepper and butter on it. I even put ketchup over them and it still tasted But that's what we discovered with corn when we canned the corn, because we like canned corn and we usually like frozen better, but did not like the canned corn either. And what it did with the corn, because the corn was so sweet, it caramelized, so it looked like brown corn. And there's something about looking at brown corn that just didn't do, but it just, we didn't like. So, you know, I learned. So last year we froze all of our corn. We've done that before and we really like it. So if I want potatoes, I'm thinking about freezing the potatoes this year if we get potatoes. If we don't, out of the garden, I know I can go to Aldi's and get a 10-pound bag for about $4 something, and I can freeze some potatoes. I mean, I can sit there and peel them and wash them and dice them up into little cubes and soak them and then flash freeze them. So they're like the like the O'Brien cubes. I've got a grater. I can shred them like hash browns. So, but because sometimes we do like fried potatoes, and yes, we can peel the potatoes and we can just fry it, you know, raw and cook it like that. That's no big deal. But sometimes it's nice to have that option. Just like we like tater tots, and I know you can make them yourself too. I just have to find a recipe to try. So, and then I've been thinking about, because we haven't bought bread from the store in probably over 2 years since I've been making it. And in the back of my mind, I've always thought about getting a grinder that you can buy your berries from to grind. And my friend Shar has one, and I've been chit-chatting with her this morning over it, and she uses hers for everything, and all her baking, all her breads and stuff. But the thing is, the machine is so expensive, so expensive. You know, like $2.99 on up. Just depends on how much or what one you get. I do have my eye on one that's $2.99 that everybody has said if you just want to use it just to get the flour, like for bread making or for cookies or something like that, this is the one. Some people get the more expensive one because they do grits or cereals and stuff, and it has an option where you can change how fine you want it. So, but I'm still thinking about it. She said she's not regretted it, and I'm just waiting for her to let me know what one she ended up getting, because the one that I was looking at, that was her top one to get. But she got something different, so probably more economical, let's just say that. So, but yeah, I've been looking into all that because grains are more healthier for you and less processed, and you know, but for 2 years I have used, bread flour and all-purpose unbleached flour. So, and there's nothing wrong with that either. It's just another transition step for me. I feel like when I started gardening, and it was a year, it's probably been, this is what, my 3rd year that will be with the gardening. And it was like that transition in my life of when we retired and stuff, that I wanted to do more baking and the gardening and preserving for us. And I cannot explain the feeling that it gives me. And it's like making our own bread. And it's like making the raisin bread or the cookies, or it's that cooking from scratch. And maybe it's my grandma coming out in me. Whatever it is, it just makes me feel good. And it's that transition into whatever I'm supposed to be doing. And that's exactly how I feel. And so, it's like when you make something for the first time, whether it is food, crafts, whatever, and you give it to somebody and they get that excited look on their face, or if it's food and they're just like, wow, that's really good, it makes you feel good inside, and after a while, like example for the bread, after a while, Mr. Jerry, my hubby, quit saying, oh, that was a good bread. And one day I said something to him about that, and he goes, oh, I just assumed that's going to come out good like it always is. So, and I don't need a recipe anymore. It's in my head. I know exactly how to do it. I know how the dough should be. I know what the yeast proof should look like. It's like anything else. Now, he likes Jiffy cornbread in the box, and I found a place that there was a copycat of it, Now, if you get your cornmeal, it's the exact same recipe that's on it, just about. But you know, there's something about that when I can put into my Weight Watcher tracker, which has not rolled over to the new one yet, and for a fourth of the package, it says, is 7 points. When I make it from scratch, using the cornmeal and the flour and all that stuff, and how many it makes, it's only 3 points. I don't understand why. I really don't. But it comes out a little bit browner looking than the box. But it tastes really good. And the muffin paper peels really good. Where the box, sometimes it will stick to it no matter what you do. And he tends to like muffins, and so, you know, he cuts it down, and so he'll make 6 muffins, and I'll have 1, and he'll have 2, and then there's 3 more left out there for the next few days for whatever we're having. So it's just stuff like that. And so I just keep thinking, you know, because everything's getting so expensive, and so is the berries that you get, or the ancient grains, whatever you get. The only difference is that you can get the grains and it lasts a lot longer and you don't use as much, but I'm still thinking about it. But it's just like that. I just feel like it's that transition. It's like when I worked all my life, well, when we got married and then we had kids, you transitioned into a family and transitioned into parents with kids, and everything was about those kids, and you sacrificed a lot for those kids. Anyways, we did. And you did a lot with the kids, and you instilled things into those kids, and you were never, ever, I don't want to say friends, but you were parents. I figured that my kids are going to grow up either being adults and saying, I'm not going to be that way, or I'm going to do exactly like Mom and Dad did, because they instilled something in us. They didn't, you know, they just didn't. You know, and now that our kids are older and everything, they are our best friends. But we definitely were not their best friends growing up, because teenage years are tough and they want to keep up with their friends, and you know what's best at the time. And I don't know in their teenage years what they did when they were gone with their friends. And I tell them, this is not the time to let your mom and dad know all the things, because we were kids once and they don't need to know what we did. But it's that transition. And then, you know, then you transition to an empty nester. And like I said, that was difficult for me. And so then when we transitioned into retirement, I retired several years before Jerry did. And the first couple of years were very difficult, because I felt like I didn't have anything. I could craft. And I was home all the time by myself, because, you know, someone would say, well, why don't you go visit somebody? Y'all, my friends were still all working. I couldn't go to visit friends. They were all working. So I'm home and crafting like crazy. But then when Jerry decided he was going to retire that summer, I said to him, because my friend has always gardened and stuff, and I said to him, I'd like a garden. Can we do a garden? And it was at the last minute in the spring. He never batted an eye. We've put out a small garden, raised beds and everything, and I got seeds, and I didn't know what I was doing, and I just planted things because I wasn't for sure. And I grew stuff, but it wasn't enough to can. If I wanted to can, we had to go to farmers markets. And Jerry would say, our garden isn't big enough for you to can enough to get us through the year. So the following year we doubled it. Now it still isn't as big as what we need, and we don't have much more room to expand it at all. And so I have to do containers for certain things, like our leafy stuff, like spinach and lettuce and all that stuff. And this year I want to try peas. I tried peas last year. I did snap peas. Jerry doesn't care for snap peas. But I'd like to grow peas, and I'd like to do it so I get it in the ground early enough so that I can do 2 crop rotations. So I can do one in the spring and I can do one in the fall. And the same thing with the green beans and, you know, the stuff that we use a lot. And, you know, but he still wants me to try some parsnips. I've not grown parsnips before. And I'm going to grow onions. My onions didn't do well last year. But I didn't get things in the ground at the right time. So there wasn't enough time for them. And so I just feel like that transition into retirement. And when I started canning, I didn't have a pressure canner. So all I could do was water bath can things. And that meant I could not do green beans. It meant I couldn't do a lot of things that have to be pressure canned. I could freeze them. And I did freeze them. The thing is that Mr. Jerry didn't like the taste of the frozen green beans. And we had lots. So my friend said I could unthaw them and I could dry them and I could pressure can them if I got a pressure canner. Well, we looked into an electric one, and so that second year he got me a Presto electric canner. And it was a game changer. I could do carrots, I could do the potatoes that we don't care for, but I could do the green beans, and I could do a lot of things that need that pressure canning, chicken broth, you know, stuff like that. I can still water bath in it also. So I did both of them, because the other way I just had the big old stock pot with something on the bottom so the jars didn't touch the bottom, and we'd wait for it to boil and stuff. But you know, it was just like all of that stuff. And every time that I did something more like that, I felt more accomplished, more like I was contributing to the family again. And so now I sit here and I look at stuff that we use all the time. So I am looking at, like I said, the cornbread. I have made cream of soup, anything cream of soup powder. I make our own pancake mix, you know, our own brown sugar, and just different things along the line. And you know, it just makes me feel good to know that I'm controlling what goes into our bodies as far as what I'm using here. And don't get me wrong, nothing wrong with from the store and all that stuff, so don't take it that way. This is my way. And because we still use store-bought stuff. But it's that slow transition over. And so I feel like this year I'm shifting again. And I don't know what that means. And I don't know what that brings. All I know is that when I start to feel like this, then I'm digging deeper into the roots of what I really want to do in my, some people would say homesteading. I don't think I'm a homesteader, but that is a loose term for anybody. But that's how I feel. I mean, we got jars of stuff that we can use, and we got frozen stuff we can use, and there is a local butcher that every year has chicken that they do on sale, and last year we did it and we still have chicken. And so chicken's expensive, you know. I wish that I had more room. I would really like to do, you know, a quarter beef or pork or something along that line, but, you know, everything's expensive. So you just do what you can do. And I don't know why I'm telling you all this, except for it just makes me feel good. And sometimes we got to do what makes us feel good, because life's really heavy right now. All you got to do is turn on the TV, or even go on, you know, any social platform. And we all see the damage, and we all see the tragedy stuff. And whether you approve of it or you don't approve of it, our bodies and our minds were not made to handle, I really believe, all of that at one time. And sometimes we just need to be able to get away. And I think that's why sometimes we watch other YouTubers and we watch people and how their lives are, because they don't bring all of that into, usually they don't, all of that into their little world. And so if I can sit here and show you pictures of my garden and processing stuff, making bread, making yogurt, sewing, any of that, knitting, crocheting, then that's what I do. And sometimes it's just me sitting there talking and not being as chatty as I am today. But yeah. So I'm looking into the possibility of grinding our own grain to make our own bread. And but I got to do some deep thinking and praying on it, because it is expensive. And it's like anything. It's like I told Jerry, I said, my fear is we spend the money on it, and I get the grain and I grind it up and I make the bread and it comes out okay, but we don't like the taste of bread, and there sits that machine. You know what I mean? I mean, I've done enough research that says which berries to get for first-time users, because it's a really soft taste, so you won't taste like a big transition to it. But, you know, so as we're under another advisory for more snow, some more frigid weather, and our weatherman last night said that the abominable snowman has taken over the area because we're getting those negatives again. So tomorrow, you know, like the actual temps could be -20, you know, and spring's supposed to be coming. But I know it's still January. And my heart goes out to everybody who was in that path of that storm that went through. Our grandson, they were supposed to get 13 inches of snow, and they're in an area that's not used to that. And they're supposed to get frigid temps and everything. And, you know, seeing the pictures of, is it Mississippi and Tennessee, where they got the 1/4 inch at least of ice, and all the trees are falling, and just devastating. Just devastating, you know. So, thanks for stopping by, my friends. I appreciate it. I hope that you had a great weekend. I hope if you were in the path of the storm that you survived it. I hope if you were without power, you get it back soon. And yeah. Talk to you soon. See ya, my friend.